Hey everybody, welcome back to an episode of the Elite, the Elite Count. I'm the greatest second place champion and the face of the 3 count Mafia, War Machine MJ. And of course we're here today to talk about AEW Wednesday night Dynamite. Old habits die hard. Anywho, yeah, week 5 of the Wednesday Night Wars. And while NXT did have a stellar episode, both NXT and AEW took a major hit given that it was the finals of the World Series. I believe the Astros won. I don't know, I'm not a baseball guy. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into this, shall we? AEW kicked off with footage of Cody, Dustin, and Tony Schiavone at the airport, getting off of their private jet and going to a limo, going to the show for Cody's big contract signing with Jericho. We'll pick up on them later on. Then afterwards, they showed what happened after the time limit draw last week, after Mox nailed a paradigm shift on a ref. While he was all disgusted and angry about the result, Pac, who was Mox's opponent, got around and he brought in a steel chair and started going to town on Mox. Even wrapping it around his neck, gonna put him on the shelf until Kenny Omega made the save. Just basically saying, your ass is mine at Full Gear, and until then, nobody else is collecting. Mox wasn't too happy about that. He storms off, goes to the back, and is immediately told by a stagehand that Tony Khan wants to see him. And they have this great back and forth in the office. The door's shut, but there's subtitles. And Tony Khan, and I'm still convinced that it wasn't him, or whoever, was portraying him, did great. No stumbles, no stutters, nothing. Clear, concise points. Basically what it was Tony Khan pulled Mox in the office to tell him that his match against Kenny is going to be a lights out unsanctioned match. That way they can beat the crap out of each other, and it won't matter to wins and losses. That upset Mox because not only did he want to beat AEW's Golden Boy, but he wanted to make it count. And basically, without going into any cliches, Tony Khan was acting like the evil authoritarian and not giving Mox what he wanted. What he wants, what he really, really wants. Give him what he wants. So yeah, Full Gear, they're going to have a lights out unsanctioned match, and the last dialogue in this little segment was Mox yelling at Tony Khan that whatever happens to Kenny is on your hands. His blood is on your hands. So yeah. Then we move on to the in-ring action as the inner circle, Sammy Guevara took on Hangman Page. And this was a really good match. They both kicked the crap out of each other, especially Sammy Guevara trying to counter Adam Page's his weight and his power gain. But in the end, Page landed the buckshot lariat to put away the Spanish God, as Chris Jericho so elegantly put him. Afterwards, Hangman picked up the mic and said, basically spoke his piece, said things weren't going so well, but at Full Gear, he's going to buckshot lariat Pac's head off, and he's going to do some cowboy shit. And that's my one per use. One use per video. Anyway, before they cut to commercial, and they did a lot of picture-in-picture commercials, which I'm on board with. It keeps people in the action. There was a backstage shot of Private Party welcoming NWA Tag Team Legends, the Rock and Roll Express, into the arena. We'd see them a little bit later on as they welcome in the AEW Tag Team Championships. Almost said NWA. Next, we had women's action as the debuting Shayna took on Hikaru Shida. This was a fantastic match. A brilliant showcase for the debuting Shayna. I think they said she was Puerto Rican, but she had been spending the past few years wrestling in France. Either way, she was really impressive. However, in the end, Hikaru Shida landed a Shining Wizard to get the victory, and they were pushing the time limit because they were about down towards the 5 minute mark of the match. Well, I'm sorry, 5 minutes remaining. Afterwards, we got a video package of it's another what are they doing with Brandy Rhodes kind of thing, because it was well done video package, I'll give it that, but it was really weird. It looked like she was channeling demonic forces to summon Awesome Kong. It was really weird. So yeah. And next up, AEW introduces the Rock and Roll Express, and they came out there with those glorious looking AEW tag team titles, and they shed a little history. They said, well, we were in Charleston. We remember picking up the NWA titles from, I think it was Arn and Tully. I can't remember who they said. But before they could get on to their spiel, they were assaulted by Santana and Ortiz. They just beat those old bastards within an inch of their life, and just whipped them around with a loaded sock. Afterwards, they powerbombed Ricky Morton through the stage. Powerbombed him through the stage, and then finally the Young Bucks said, "What are you doing? Get off of him!" Like, come on. I know they're tough old dudes that can still go, but come on, don't wait till they get stretchered out. Anyway, yeah, we get set up for our next match as the jobber team of John Silver, Alex Reynolds, and QT Marshall were standing in the ring. And we cut to Cody and Shivani in the limo on the way to the arena. And I've talked previously before about Tony Schiavone, turning chicken into chicken salad. He does more than that, because with this scene alone, he deserves a freaking Oscar. Because he's riding in the limo, and he's got such a delivery to his speech, his rhetoric, that it almost makes it feel important, even though it really wasn't that much important. And Schiavone told Cody a story about him and Dusty meeting Willie Nelson. And he said he knocked on Dusty's door, and Dusty, opened the door in his birthday suit, and Shivani said, "Well, Willie Nelson's here, and he'd like to meet you." And Dusty's like, "Okay, but tell me this: is he at the pool already?" Shivani's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Big lesson in being a star: the main event always comes out last. Make him wait." And it was no interruptions, no stumbles, no stutters, just perfect delivery. Cody still can't do any wrong yet. Give it time. Everybody trips up eventually. Anyway, he basically goes on to this emotional spiel, basically talking about how he's going to prove a lot of things to a lot of people at Full Gear. He said his family's going to be in attendance in Baltimore when he wins the title, and he's going to impress his mom and try and live up to his dad's standards, while all the while kicking Jericho's ass. Anyway, back to QT Marshall, Alex Reynolds, and John Silver. They were in a hilariously bad losing effort to the best friends, Chuck Taylor, Trent Beretta, and Orange Cassidy. Of course, this was 2-on-2. Or, no. No, it was 3-on-3. Of course, AEW was paying some bills because they, they did a sponsorship with Rick and Morty, which, big fan. I love the show. The show's amazing. And both TNT and Rick and Morty are owned by Turner, so of course that's seamless. But given this was a Halloween episode, best friends came out dressed as Rick and Morty. Give me a second. I'm trying to put names to faces here. Trent Beretta was dressed up as Morty, while Chuck and Orange Cassidy were dressed up as Rick. And, they even got an introduction by Justin Roiland, who was one of the co-creators of the show and voices on the show. So, yeah. This was pretty much just a fun filler match. Of course, we got to see the absolute highlight of this match, which was Orange Cassidy freshly squeezed, with those devastating ankle biter super kicks that he calls sweet chin music. He was lighting up QT Marshall's shins with those, and when Marshall tried to behead him with a clothesline, Orange Cassidy hit a combat roll and then just drop kicked him. Perfect. Of course, the best friends got the win. No surprise there. Next was the contract signing. Jericho came out first, rocking a Halloween button-down shirt that would have looked terrible on anybody else who didn't have rock star hair. So while he was waiting, there was a backstage video. There was a backstage shot of Shivani and Cody getting out of the limo, going to the arena. And all the while, commentary made a point to bring up, since it was just Excalibur and JR for the better part of the show, they brought up the new stipulation for the championship. Because there must be a winner. If there's not a winner within the time frame, then it will go to a panel of 3 judges who will vote on the winner. Of course, unanimous decision is the standard, but in other cases, it's majority rules. And it's a 60-minute time limit, so this is going to be a knockout, drag-out fight. But yeah, Cody and Shivani came out there. Cody signs the contract, hardly any rhetoric from him. Jericho, he gets the contract and he acts like he's about to flip the table, but he's like, nah, I'm going to be professional. We're going to be adults here, and I'm going to sign this contract. No shenanigans involved. And basically, it was pretty much Jericho running down the crowd, running down Cody. So yeah, it was all just great rhetoric from Jericho. Jericho signs it. You know, they get face to face, and behind them on the Titantron is Sammy Guevara's stupid face. And yeah, he's basically trying to get Cody's attention. He says, "Hey, you might want to look at this." And the camera pans over, and it's Jake Hager beating the absolute crap out of Dustin Rhodes. Um, Kicked him in the business like he did in his last Bellator fight. Uh, Busted his head into the side of the limo, left a nice little dent in there, and then tried to break Dustin's arm with the car door. Cody and MJF, chased away the imposing Hager while Jericho lights up a cigarette, gets in a car, and basically just he laughs at the Rhodes brothers. So Jericho is playing with a whole lot of fire he's not ready to deal with. Next up, we had trios action as the Hybrid 2, Jack Evans on Helico, teamed up with Kip Sabian to take on the Elite, the Elite. Of course, the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. Of course, yeah, of course, the heel side came out first. And after they came out, it was time for the faces, where Kenny does another one of these theatrical entrances like he did at Wrestle Kingdom against Tanahashi, where he starts playing up this narrative with him about how he's in AEW surrounded by his friends, except for Kota Ibushi, which they made a a a big point of that story, and saying eventually his other friends are going to be like Kota and leave him too. And of course, basically it was Kenny's in a slump. He's worried his friends are going to leave him, but the Elite are going to be there for him. Cue Omega as he comes out dressed as Sans from Undertale. Of course, if you don't know who Sans is, he's a skull that talks, and his text box is in Comic Sans, hence his name. Really good. Halloween. What do you expect? Then out came the Bucks, who dusted off their Fighter Fest gear, dressing up as Ken and Ryu from Street Fighter. This was a fun match as, yeah, both these trios try to beat each other down with just a barrage of technical and aerial displays, including Matt Jackson, who is not Matt Jackson, sorry, Nick Jackson and Jack Evans, who are ridiculously, disgustingly athletic. The end came as Kenny Omega put down Jack Evans with a V-trigger into a one-winged angel to secure another victory for the Elite. Of course, after the match, the Young Bucks were going around high-fiving fans in the crowd when two fans who were wearing Rick masks decided to hold on to the Young Bucks a little bit longer after the high five and beat them down. That, of course, was Santana and Ortiz. They were beating up the Bucks over the guardrail, and then Kenny chased them off. So yeah, Full Gear is going to be a fantastic show. Can't wait. Next, out came the librarian Peter Avalon, who was who came out, ran down the North Carolina crowd, all the while the camera panned over to Jon Moxley, who came seemingly out of nowhere in the crowd, walked in the ring, tried to give Avalon a chance to run, but before Avalon could do anything, Mox murdered him with a paradigm shift. And then grabbed a mic and just vented. Talk about how people label him as different, and he's not stupid. He knows that means you know people don't like him to conform to people don't want him to be himself. They want him to conform, basically shooting on his time in WWE when he was Dean Ambrose. And said, yeah, they're labeling him as dangerous. That's why they're giving him this unsanctioned match, because they don't want to harm their golden boy. And of course, he reiterated that Kenny's blood would be on the executive's hands. And he said he had a message for anybody who disagreed with his mentality: kiss his ass and stay out of his way. Promo of the year from the Paradigm Shift. And in the main event, to crown the first ever AEW Tag Team Champions, we had the Lucha Brothers versus SoCal Uncensored, SCU, Frankie Kazarian, and Scorpio Sky in an absolute barn burner of a match. This was a fantastic match. Of course, Scorpio Sky, if SCU ever decided to disband, they should slap a rocket onto Scorpio Sky. He is fantastic in the ring. He can cut a good promo. Of course, you know my thoughts on Phoenix. He is disgustingly good. In the end, however, damn, okay, alright. It is a couple days removed from the episode, so I'm trying to get a refresher course. That's why I got notes. In the end, Scorpio Sky reversed a package pile driver into a roll up and pinned Pentagon, SCU becoming the first ever AEW Tag Team Champions. Yeah, this was a fantastic match despite that finish. They could have gone with something a bit more climactic. Maybe they were running out of TV time. They did say they were there must be a winner, and they would continue it on their social media platforms if need be. But yeah, just that ending was very abrupt. And I feel like it's going to until because they made their point earlier by beating down the Rock and Roll Express, until this whole Inner Circle versus, let's face it, it's going to turn into an elite level situation down the line. But until they get that out of the way, I'm guessing they're going to keep going with SCU versus Lucha Brothers until they have SCU defend against Santana and Ortiz, because they made themselves a credible threat by laying out the Rock and Roll Express. But yeah, that's AEW for this week, week 5. Week 5, and the only reason why they dipped is because of the World Series. So yeah. That being said, you know what time it is. It's plug time. If you miss Rod's opinions but hate his ugly face, he has a podcast. It's Prime Talk with Rodimus Prime on the CastBox app, where he talks just that. He talks wrestling, he talks sports, he even talks about the World Series. So yeah. course, he's got some insight on World Series. I think he said he was laughing at the Nationals. Oh well. Anyway, that being said, I'm the greatest second place champion and the face of the 3 Count Mafia, War Machine MJ, and I will see you guys next time.